Hey everyone, good afternoon. It's really great to see everyone back today for our webinar series. I'm really happy to have you all join me today for the final part of this webinar series. My name is Niyati, and in today's concluding episode, we look at leveraging your network logs to secure your entire network. So, your network logs are not only useful for auditing and compliance purposes, but you can, when you know how to use them properly, you can really leverage them to secure your network. And that's what we'll be discussing in today's episode. Sorry. Okay, so before we begin, I'd just like to inform you all that if you have any audio or video issues, you can let us know using the live chat option. And also, the recordings for all of the episodes in this webinar series will soon be available, and we will be sending them across in an email to all of you. Okay, very quickly. I'll just recap what we have seen so far in this webinar series because it will also help us to set the direction for today's final episode. In part 1 last week, we started with the basics. We looked at the most essential components of Active Directory monitoring. So we saw the importance of auditing your logon activity or auditing privileged user activity, and also looking at the various account and group changes and so on. In part 2, we got a bit more advanced in that we looked at applying the latest machine learning and user behavior analytic techniques to detect anomalies in user behavior. So, in the first two parts, we looked at a basic and advanced perspective of your Active Directory auditing. Yesterday, in part 3, we expanded the scope of our discussion beyond Active Directory. We saw how our network generates log information from multiple sources and how the field of SIEM helps us audit and secure our network as a whole. So we looked at the basic foundations of SIEM and we saw a list of critical events that you need to track to throughout your network. So these critical events are basically very classic SIEM use cases that have been in use for years. And it's really important to audit all those critical events, but of course there's also more new and upcoming ways to audit and secure your network. So that's what brings us to the final part of the series today, where we'll be expanding on yesterday's discussion. As I said, yesterday we laid the foundation of SIEM, and today we'll explore how this field is changing to keep up with the evolving cybersecurity landscape. So that's why I'll begin by describing the security landscape of today, and then I'll explain why log management and SIEM are so critical even within today's security context. And in the latter half of the session, I'll also describe some of the emerging trends in the field of SIEM, and I'll discuss some of those trends in detail. Let's begin by looking at what attackers are focusing their attention on these days. Of course, we have ransomware at the beginning of this list because it has been dominating the preferred list of attacks for attackers in the past few years. So you can see that in 2017, 39% of all attacks involving malware were ransomware. I mean, even as recently as 2014, ransomware was number 22 on this list. But in barely 3 years, it has just jumped to the number one spot. So, the most likely reason for this crazy jump is the advent of ransomware as a service. So, in this model, easy to deploy ransomware kits are made available for very cheap prices so that even the least sophisticated attacker out there can just purchase them and launch ransomware attacks of their own. In fact, this isn't available just for ransomware. Ransomware, various ransomware variants or malware exploits, other malware exploits, even crypto mining malware are made available for sale on the dark web. So, and this is a very common trend that we are seeing these days. So literally anyone can become an attacker if they just know where to look. And the chances, and because of all this, because there are so many more attackers out there, obviously the chances of your network getting breached just increase all that more. The next trend, in the last couple of years, we have been seeing that attacks are becoming more and more targeted. Previously, we saw that attackers just tried this kind of blind hit and miss method. They would just try to attack the first network that they were able to breach. But no, now these days, attacks are becoming much more targeted and much more sophisticated. So, why is this happening? Okay. A lot of the social engineering attacks and phishing emails these days, they're becoming much more personalized. So you can see that even really high ranking officials in your organizations may end up getting tricked by these phishing emails. I mean, how is this happening? How are phishing emails or any other attack types becoming so much more targeted and so much more personalized? See, if you think about it, at the rate that data breaches are happening these days, it's almost certain that your personal data is just floating out there somewhere. I mean, any smart hacker who wishes to target you or your organization can easily retrieve the information that they need and create an attack designed specifically for you or your organization. Okay, so next we have a lot of new technologies are emerging these days, right? I mean, obviously, technology is evolving at like blinding rates. So we have so many new cloud-based services, and the Internet of Things is becoming more and more prominent each day. Unfortunately, though, they are evolving so fast; they're almost evolving too fast, which leads to large gaps in their security. So security just ends up getting missed because there are technologies just developing at such a fast pace, and multiple security vulnerabilities are being discovered even in the top IoT vendors devices these days. So attackers, of course, have taken note of all of this, and they're moving in to exploit all of these different types of technologies, different types of devices, platforms, and so on. And last but not the least, we are seeing an unprecedented rise in the cryptojacking attacks. So 2018 is basically the year of cryptojacking. As you can see, there is like almost 1,000% increase in this particular type of attack in just this 1 year. So, what exactly is this attack? If any of you have not heard of this yet, cryptojacking is basically the use of unauthorized software, which runs on your systems, to mine cryptocurrency. So, you all may know that mining cryptocurrency is a very resource intensive job, and not everyone has access to the kind of hardware and the amount of electricity that it takes to mine cryptocurrency. This is why attackers are distributing the job to systems around the world. So, what they do is they piggyback on the resources of various systems which they breach around the world. And obviously, corporate networks are highly targeted over here because they have so much more resources available. And the important thing to note from all of this is that it isn't just your data which is valuable to attackers. So attackers don't just breach your network for stealing or accessing your critical data. They can actually steal even your network resources, something that is so much more basic. And okay, you may think, okay, so what? Maybe they hijack a couple of systems, but that isn't so great because my confidential business data isn't being compromised. So maybe it isn't such a big deal. But actually, it really is a big deal. So it has a lot of indirect effects on your business, on your network. So if they hijack your resources, they can slow down your entire network, And this will obviously, time is money, so it obviously has an effect on your entire network and entire business. So if your network slows down, it could disrupt business continuity, and it could increase your electricity costs, so much more. It could cause a whole lot of damage which we may not immediately realize. So that's why everyone needs to sit up and take note of this attack as well, and we need to take steps to ensure that this does not affect our networks. Now I'll just present some other important facts and statistics. These can help us understand the state of the market today. So just a couple of figures over here. You can see that the US government has earmarked $15 billion to be spent on cybersecurity in the next 1 year. So this is a really huge number because this part of their budget is much higher than the other sections of their budget. So cybersecurity is really high on the global priority list. And of course, you can also see that the worldwide info security market is currently evaluated at around $114 billion, and it's increased at a rate of about 12%. So you can see that cybersecurity is really pretty important and relevant even today, and we need to take steps and invest in the right solutions to ensure that our networks are secured. So currently, the average cost of a data breach worldwide, the worldwide average is about 3.9 million US dollars, and in the USA particularly, it's about 7.9 million dollars. So, how ready are all organizations around the world? So, once again, you can see that about, I mean, we have seen this fact even in the previous episodes, but honestly, it takes months even today to detect a data breach. And that's pretty alarming. I mean, with so much being spent on cybersecurity, as we just saw, why is it that people are still taking about 196 days to detect a data breach? So we need to look at more advanced and evolving methods to secure our network. And also here are the couple of statistics. 40% of all the unknown and unmanaged devices, they get completely missed. So sometimes it so happens that people, some organization networks are so large that there are a lot of devices that just go unmanaged, and these can be the ideal entry points for attackers. And email, email is probably one of the most preferred entry methods for an attack to your network, because 65% of all email is pure spam email, and human error is still a dominant concern today. As we discussed a couple of slides ago, due to the highly personalized nature of phishing emails and spam emails, social engineering attacks, due to all of this, it is still highly possible that your employees can fall for any of these phishing emails. So we need to take note of this. We need to invest in proper employee awareness and employee training to ensure that this does not happen. And very quickly, here are some very specific facts for the Saudi Arabia and UAE. So IBM conducted a study in these regions, and these are some of the pertinent facts that they came up with. So in these regions, the average cost of a data breach is about $5.3 million, and it's up 7% from last year. And the average time to detect a data breach is even higher over here. It's about 260 days. And once they detect these breaches, it takes about 90 days or 3 months to resolve this incident. So, this also shows how incident preparedness and how it's important to resolve incidents really quickly, because you can see that if companies were able to contain a breach in less than 1 month, they were able to save over $1 million, because if it went beyond 1 month, the cost to companies was over $1 million. And the most affected industries would be financial services, the other services and the technology industries. Yesterday, we already saw what SIEM is. So it's security information and event management. It's basically using all the information generated by your network to manage and audit and secure your network. Today, now that we have seen the state of cybersecurity as it exists today, I just like to reinstate why SIEM is so important even in this current context. So, we saw that attack methods are constantly evolving and data breaches are going unnoticed for long periods of time. So, why is this happening? Your network logs already contain all the information you need to identify any anomalies or attacks or any other suspicious activity, in fact, on your network. So, why aren't we able to use our logs? Why aren't we able to identify attacks in time? It's really pretty simple. Okay, so your network generates literally millions of logs every day. So, again, this is something we saw yesterday, but these are all the various devices, all the various sources from which your logs are generated. It's not just your workstations and servers and domain controllers. There are also network devices to consider. So, devices like your firewalls, routers, and all the other applications, devices, and specialized security solutions that you use. So you can see that logs are coming at alarming rates from various sources, and they are all in different formats, and they all contain pieces of information. So if you see them in isolation, if you just pick out logs from a specific device, or you may not immediately understand that they indicate an attack. So SIM solutions, their power is really seen over here. They really help you because they provide one single central location to put all of these millions of logs together, manage them, and gain like a comprehensive view of your network, like as a whole. Audit your network. So, whether it's for auditing or compliance or security, SIM solutions help you ensure that you stay on top of everything that's happening in your network. But of course, like any technology, even SIEM has to evolve to keep up with the changing times. So, what are the trends that we see in the SIM industry today? You can see them listed over here on this slide. So I'll just start the discussion with these three over here. So user behavior analytics. We already discussed this in detail in last week's session. And if any of you missed it, don't worry. As I said, we will send you the full recording once the series is complete. Anyway, so essentially, UBA or user behavior analytics, it deals with the application of really advanced machine learning and analytic techniques to form baselines in your network users' behavior, and it generates real-time alerts anytime that there is a deviation from that baseline. So anytime um, your users do something which is out of their normal behavior pattern, you immediately get an alert and you can see if their user accounts have been compromised in any way and so on. So, this allows SIEM solutions to become smarter and help you monitor your users without your intervention. Next, we come to public cloud auditing. This is pretty self explanatory. We already discussed, right, how the cloud is heavily used today. I spoke about emerging technologies and cloud. The migration of businesses to the cloud has been happening for a few years now, and it continues to stay strong. So more and more businesses are depending pretty heavily on the cloud, and SIM solutions need to keep up with this. So they need to perform cross platform auditing in order to provide a complete picture of the network. Scalability. Okay. So this is again something which is pretty natural. So as networks become larger and they become more complex, for instance, they're distributed all over the world. So many companies have their presence all over the world. They have offices in many remote locations. And in fact, there are many employees who work from home. You have remote employees and so on. So networks are basically becoming larger and larger and much more complex in their structure. So SIM solutions need to be able to handle this increasing size and complexity as well. So they should be able to handle massive log volumes. They need to come with really convenient deployment options which help you audit the complete network, however it is structured. And of course, you can, because of all this, SIM solutions, we see that SIM solutions they form the core of many security operation centers around the world because they provide such a comprehensive view of the overall network. So these first three trends over here form the latter half of today's session. So we'll be discussing this in a little bit more detail now. First is advanced correlation. So what is event correlation? We already saw how your SIM solutions process logs from multiple sources, right? So with event correlation, you can put together the information from multiple devices and identify potential attacks or other anomalies. So as I said, you don't just have workstations and servers generating logs, but there are also other devices like your routers and firewalls. So you need to be able to see the path of incidents as they happen across all these devices. So let's look at this from a security angle. If you think about any security attack, an attack, it basically follows three stages. So these stages would be the entry stage, which is how an attacker is able to gain access to your network. Next would come exploration, which is how an attacker, say, moves laterally through your network, trying to find other targets or trying to reach some device which they are already targeting, which they already wish to breach. And finally, the actual breach or compromise. So once they are able to enter their target device or devices, they either steal your data or steal your network resources. So that is the final breach stage, at which point your network is actually considered compromised or breached. Anyway, so what we need to note from this is that all attacks follow very similar patterns within each of these stages. So let's consider ransomware. Okay, ransomware, uh, the three basic stages of a ransomware attack would basically be: first, how the malware is downloaded onto your network. So the most common way of ransomware being delivered to your network is through an email. Of course, there are several other ways, but let's just assume an email delivers ransomware to your network, and that would be the entry stage. After that, if let's take the WannaCry ransomware example, which used the Windows Eternal Blue vulnerability to propagate itself across several devices. So the second stage or exploration is deals with how the malware um, pushes itself throughout various devices in your network. And the final stage, of course, which is the ultimate aim of any ransomware, is encrypting your data. So, as I said, various types of attacks, they follow very similar patterns within these three stages. So, we just discussed ransomware, which encrypts your network data. You may also face another type of attack, let's say a spyware, which steals your network credentials. So these attacks do completely different things, right? Ransomware encrypts your data, spyware steals your network credentials. But if you start examining each of these attacks, if you look at each attack vector, you may find that both of them are using the same vulnerability to move laterally through your network. So actually, even though they seem like two different attacks, they actually have a lot of similarities in how they operate. So that's why if we start breaking down all the attacks that we have today, we will find a lot of common patterns. So, the trick to capturing all these attacks is to start identifying these patterns. And if we can do that, if we can spot signs of oncoming attacks. So, that's exactly what event correlation helps you do. It helps you spot these types of patterns in your network, and it alerts you when any attack or potential attack is detected. So, this way you can immediately jump to action. Your time to detect an incident greatly reduces. You can immediately investigate and you can stop the attack, which is already happening, or you can contain, uh, or you can stop it even before it happens, let's say. So, as I said, attacks are complex incidents, right? So they involve multiple sequential events, and these events leave log trails. So this is why logs are so important. And even though logs actually are a sort of historical view which tell you what happened in your network, if you examine them, if you have a solution which examines them in real time, you can actually use these logs to identify patterns and sort of predict the future or immediately understand what is happening in your network. So, event correlation identifies these patterns using something known as correlation rules. So, a correlation rules is simply like a template. You can think of it like a template or a specific pattern which indicates a threat. So, event correlation compares your logs, your real time logs, with these correlation rules, and anytime there's a match, it immediately alerts you. So some of the examples. So it's so even correlation is really so flexible and so powerful. It can be used to detect various types of attacks. So it can be either brute force, or it can detect malware installations. It can detect lateral movement, which we just spoke about. It can detect cryptojacking, which is one of the most modern types of attacks, but it is flexible enough to detect all of this. I'll be discussing some of this in a little bit more detail once I show you our product. But yeah, just I'm just telling you this point that correlation is powerful enough to detect a wide range of attacks. And of course, it's not just detection, but with correlation, you can also conduct really in-depth forensic investigations. So we'll see how that happens in some time. So this is just a quick example. So let's say an attacker who is outside your network, an external hacker, wants to breach your network and download some particular malware onto your network. So let's say they are able to breach your organization's VPN somehow. So let's say through a simple brute force attack, they are able to breach your organization's VPN, and they get a legitimate IP to log on to your network. Once this happens, they are able to remotely log on to a device in your network. Assuming, let's say they have some device credentials already. So this attacker next logs on to a specific device in your network and installs a software. So you can see that there are more than one device involved over here. There is a firewall, your which provides your VPN feature, and also your network device. So you can see that even though there are multiple devices involved here, even correlation is able to identify this pattern of activity and immediately alert you that there is a potential malware installed on your network. So that was event correlation. Next, let's talk about threat intelligence. This is the next SIEM trend, which is really important today, especially in today's context. So, what is threat intelligence? This is the definition that you see over here. So, Gartner defines threat intelligence as evidence based knowledge. It includes context, mechanisms, indicators, implications, and all such things about any existing or emerging um, danger which can be used, and all of this information is used to inform decisions regarding your response to all these dangers, menaces, or hazards. So it seems like a pretty complex definition. So that's why let's break it down over here. So threat intelligence is essentially evidence based knowledge. So what this means is threat intelligence is based on a known bad approach. So this is a highly classic, and but it's still highly efficient, and it's one of the most classic yet efficient approaches to network security. So threat detection occurs based on the knowledge that a similar threat was observed somewhere else in the world. So that's all that's basically what threat intelligence is. You have the knowledge that one particular threat was observed somewhere else, and when you see it happening in your own network, you immediately know that this is something dangerous and you can jump to action. So this evidence based knowledge, so it includes various things like context, mechanisms, indicators, implications, actionable advice, and all that. So it's basically a really wide ranging, this evidence based knowledge. It's very wide ranging in the types of information that it covers. So there's actually a pretty common misconception that threat intelligence is just a list of bad IP addresses. But the thing is, it's something much more than that. So it's hard facts like the specific mechanisms and indicators of attack, and also more general information like advice on how to deal with the threat. And of course, it also deals with both existing threats as well as emerging threats. So this shows us that threat intelligence is pretty fluid. It keeps changing. So at any given time, the latest threat intelligence, it specifies information about both established and existing threats as well as news about any emerging threats. And finally, what is all this knowledge used for? It's used to inform our decisions. So, this is the actual heart of threat intelligence, and it's the ultimate aim of why all of us should be interested in threat intelligence. So, it is to use all of this evidence based knowledge to better detect and respond to security threats. So this whole definition is pretty broad, as you can see, and there's also the popular opinion that threat intelligence also covers all the processes, policies, tools, and whatnot which are used to gather and analyze the above information. Okay, so how exactly is threat intelligence shared? So we saw what it is, but how is threat intelligence communicated between organizations? So threat feeds are the most common way to share threat intelligence. So they are basically ongoing streams of data, continuously updating streams of data, which provide you the latest threat intelligence. So what are the types of threats? There's something like RSS feeds. They're always updating with the latest knowledge about various threats observed around the world. So, for example, the types of threats covered by these threat feeds include malware, and it includes command and control servers and botnets around the world. It includes the actors which are involved in phishing and spam attacks. It includes information about zero-day threats, vulnerability exploits, APTs. I mean, it's a huge range of threats, but threat feeds basically give you information on all of this, and they are usually provided by third party vendors. So they need to, and they are put together by really dedicated research teams who research and validate the latest threat information and ensure that the threat feeds provide you really reliable uh, intelligence. So sorry. Anyway, so what format are these threat feeds in? So, threat feeds come in a variety of different formats, and this posed a problem because many organizations faced a problem when they had to deal with information from various types of threat feeds, and threat solutions also had to deal with different formats. But uh, Sticks and Taxi are these standard protocols which were developed to standardize the sharing of threat intelligence. So, Sticks and Taxi based feeds are widely used today. They're really popular and they're the most common formats that threat feeds are expressed in and communicated in. So, finally, fine, we have this threat intelligence, we have threat feeds which are provided by third parties, but how exactly do you make use of them? How exactly do you, in your organization, leverage on threat feed information? So obviously you need to make use of a solution which gathers this threat feed intelligence and is able to tell you when a threat is detected in your network. So SIM solutions are integrating threat intelligence feeds as well into their operations today. So the ideal solution should obviously be easy to deploy. So you don't have to really spend a lot of time in concentrating which feeds to use or how do you set them up, how do you configure them. So it should be pretty easy to deploy. The solution should gather threat intelligence from really reliable sources. They should allow you to add custom feeds. So, as I said, these thread feeds can come from multiple sources, and you in your organization may subscribe to specific thread feeds which are really pertinent to your specific organization. So, let's say an industry based thread feed. So, you should have the ability to add these custom feeds as well in a very integrated manner within your SIEM or threat intelligence solution. And it shouldn't just stop with detecting and alerting, it should also provide a lot of additional features which help you investigate and sort of track these threats and respond to them in an efficient manner. So this is just a quick diagrammatic representation. So let's assume that an attacker wants to send a phishing email to a system in your network. So they send an email, and but even once this communication enters your network, a log is generated, and thankfully this is a known malicious actor. So this specific hacker is known to send phishing attacks already, and there is a threat feed record uh, which says that this person is a phishing actor. So if you use a proper threat intelligence solution, as soon as this log is fed into the solution, it compares it in real time with the threat feeds, and you immediately get an alert. So you can stop a potential phishing attack before it gets out of hand. Finally, so in today's connected world, nothing can exist in isolation, and information sharing is really necessary. So even SIEM solutions should be able to connect with other network uh, administration and management solutions in order to facilitate the overall incident management and resolution process. So a prime example of this is integration with external help desk solutions. So we already saw how we integrate with several external threat feeds, but another point of integration is with external help desk solutions. If you have the ability to forward security incident information directly to your help desk software, like say Service Desk Plus or any other software, you can concentrate on the actual remedial measures. So instead of wasting time coordinating the response process. So we saw earlier in this presentation that if the time to resolve an incident goes beyond 30 days, it causes losses of more than $1 million, right? So obviously, you need to look at ways to reduce this time of resolution. So one way to drastically reduce incident resolution times is to have a really smooth flow of information between your various solutions like incident detection, incident management, and incident resolution. So now I'll quickly run through some of the latest features in Log 360, and I'll show you how our solution is staying in tune with all of these latest trends and helping you secure your network. So yesterday we saw that Log 360 is an integration of multiple solutions, including AD Audit Plus, which we saw last week, and Event Log Analyzer. So let's start with looking at the correlation module. So this is the Event Log Analyzer component of Log 360, and we have a separate module for event correlation. Here we have the main incident dashboard. So you can always adjust the dates using this calendar widget here, and you can have a bird's eye view of all the incidents that have been detected in your network in the specified time frame. Of course, if you want to investigate all the occurrences of a specific type of incident, you can easily navigate to the incident report using this table here, or you can even navigate to it from this left menu over here. So just as an example, I'll just show you, let's say, I already explained the suspicious software rule, so I'll show you another, the suspicious service installation report. So this is an individual incident report which shows you all occurrences of the specific incident in the provided time frame. So you can see that there are about 5 to 6 incidents detected, and this is an aggregated incident report. So I said that these security incidents involve several events that are occurring in multiple devices on your network, but this one report collates all of it in a single page and shows it to you. So it really helps you understand what exactly is happening in your network, and it gives you this information on so many levels. So over here you can see when each incident occurred, but if you want to see for one specific occurrence of the incident, what exactly happened, you can click on the event timeline, and it tells you exactly what event was detected at what time. So you can see that there was a brute force hack onto a specific Windows machine, and a service immediately after that, a service was installed and started. So when this pattern happens, it's probably pretty suspicious. It is an anomaly, so it is something that you need to investigate. And as I said, there are many levels of information. So if you want to go beyond this incident timeline, you can also look at the raw log contents. Finally, so this is how it makes your forensic investigation really easy. So instead of sort of running around trying to find the sequence of logs which led to the attack, you can just click on the event timeline and get it just presented to you in a very simple fashion. And if you want to go beyond that as well, you can also launch a complete search. So usually all these incidents involve multiple compromised user accounts or devices. So you can just launch a search and look at all the logs pertaining to the affected user accounts and affected devices. So in one simple click, you get an automatic search query which is constructed for you, and you can immediately investigate all the activities which involve the user and device which were compromised. So this is a predefined report that is provided to you, but of course all organizations have their own specific needs. So you can also customize all of the rules that are provided to you. So you can see over here that there are various predefined rules that are existing. So if you want to customize this to suit your own network environment, you can always click on update, and you can see how to customize this to suit your own network environment. So This is the suspicious SQL backup rule. So suspicious SQL backup. So let's say, so obviously backup is one way. So an attacker may try to take an unauthorized backup of all your confidential business information, and you need to protect against that. So this is the rule builder phase interface, which shows you the sequence of actions. And if you want, you can always add um, more events to this. You can easily modify the sequence of events that need to be checked. You can use filters. You can do a lot to really customize these rules to suit your own business. And of course, using the same rule builder interface, you can also create completely new rules starting from scratch. So this was event correlation. Now let's talk about the threat intelligence and incident management feature. So in this alerts tab over here, you have all the security alerts that are received. So it includes all the critical event alerts, which we spoke about yesterday. It includes all the correlation alerts, which we just spoke about now. It includes all the threat intelligence alerts as well. So if you want to see the alerts received from threat feeds, you can find them under the default threat profile over here. So this feature, the best part about this is that it is automatically configured. So you don't really have to do anything separate to set this up. As soon as you install the product and deploy it in your network, this feature is up and running. So you'll immediately start getting alerts if there are any threats which are detected. So it becomes really easy to use, and you can see how all these alerts are available to you over here. So the best part about this alerts tab is it also provides a lot of inbuilt ticketing features. So you can see the various alerts over here. And let's say I'm the administrator. So I can go over to check all the unassigned alerts. And let's say I wish to investigate this incident with high priority. So I can just assign it to one of my operators. I can update the incident status and all that. And of course, when the operator logs into his view of the product, he will receive this incident. And as and when he investigates the incident, he can update the latest uh, status. So the admin really doesn't have to do anything extra. I can just keep viewing this page over here, so I can get immediate updates. I don't have to spend any extra time coordinating the event incident resolution. So I it's really makes the incident resolution process so much more smoother and so much more quicker. And of course, I don't have to manually assign them. I can even create rules to assign all of these security incidents automatically, so it becomes even quicker over there. So all of these are the inbuilt features, but the best part is many organizations are already using some help desk software or the others. So you can see that Log 360 provides integrations with so many help desk software already. So you can easily configure the external servers, and as and when any security alert is detected on your network, it's automatically forwarded in real time to your help desk software, and you can immediately launch the incident resolution process. So in this way, you see that we have a lot of comprehensive incident management features. So it makes everything so much more easier and smoother for you. So finally, I just want to show you one last thing. Um, I told you how many organizations tend to use custom threat feeds. So if you would like to add any specific threat feed, you can always go over to the settings tab, threat management, and you can configure any external thread feed of yours, and it's immediately integrated within your SIEM console. So this helps you sort of put everything in one place and ensure that everything is dealt with in one central location. So these are how all of this is how Log 360 helps you keep up with the latest trends in the security space. So with all of this, you can really ensure that your network is always secured and stays safe from all the latest types of threats out there. So that brings us to the end of today's episode and the webinar series. If you have any questions, please let us know. We have about 10 more minutes. Please let us know using the live chat option. Or if you have any other questions, you can always send us an email as well. And also, now that we have seen how threat intelligence works, I also request you all to fill out our short survey. Just let us know how threat intelligence is being used in your organization. It can really help us understand what the state of threat intelligence is today. Anyway, if you have any questions, please let us know. Thank you so much for attending our session. And as I said, we'll also be sending across the recordings very soon.